Good afternoon. So thank you everybody for coming to our session, Helping People Through Organizational Change. What I'd like to do this afternoon to start is I'm going to say something and then I'd like you to just notice what happens in terms of, what reactions do you have, what thoughts come to mind. So someone walks up to you and they say to you, hey, did you hear there's a whole bunch of new changes that are going to be happening in the university? What comes to mind?
Excitement.
So, excitement. What else?
I immediately thought, what kind of change?
What
Bad
kind?
or-
What kind of change? Bad or good? What else?
What will affect me?
Right. So, how is this going to affect me? Anything else?
A little bit of fear of what is it going to change going to be?
Yeah, a little bit of fear. So, what's this change going to be? Anything else that comes to mind, or even that you notice happens in your body when someone says, okay, there's going to be a whole bunch of more changes. What happens?
More tense.
More tense. Yeah.
I felt constriction.
Constriction right here in your
Yeah.
chest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we look at change in organizations, one of the things that I'm pretty clear about is that it has become a constant. And when I think about the university, and I think over this last, particularly starting in last April, May. So let's just name some of the changes that have happened. So, new president, budget announcements in the organization. There's been changes in leadership. There have been people leaving the organization. Prior to that, there was TABS, which is an ongoing process. What are some of the other changes that have been going on in the university recently?
Changes in benefit carrier.
Changes in benefit carrier, so the shift to Sun Life. What else?
Transform us.
Yeah, I forgot that. Transform us, renew us. Is there anything else? Any changes, reorganizations in any of your areas? Smiles? Yes. So there's been some merging in some areas and some changes in leadership. Someone said to me the other day that with deans coming and going over this next year on leave, that I believe that it's something like there will be 4 deans who are going to be in their positions rather than having people who are going to be coming in for leaves that other deans are taking. We have people retiring in the university. I'm just looking at you, Brad, and thinking about a retirement in your area. So we have all of these changes that are going on within the organization. And when these changes go on, one of the things that we know is that people are going to go through and have some very normal and natural reactions to that. So I want to tell you that today is primarily a personal day. It's a day for you to pause, to have the opportunity to look at the impact that change has on you as an individual. And what I also hope that you're going to take away from this session today is an understanding that different people in the organization are going to be experiencing this change differently than what you are. And I'm imagining right now that even if you think about people in your work group, that you have noticed that people are different. Yes? So, better understanding of ourselves, better understanding of others, and then the opportunity to really look at how change affects every one of us. So I've been thinking about, and I've been working in this area of change for most of my career, more than 30 years. And one of the things that I've recognized is that because change is a constant, that each one of us as individuals really needs to learn to navigate the white waters of change. And the interesting thing is, the older I get, it seems to me the faster the pace of change has become, and in addition to that, the more often these changes are happening. So we really do have an opportunity to look at this. Now, if I had a crystal ball here, and you know, I am a fortune teller, so let me be a fortune teller for a moment, then here's some things that I can tell every one of you, is that there's going to be more change. You know that? There is definitely going to be more change. There's going to be more problems. You see that? Now, the third thing is that there is also going to be more onus on each one of us to take responsibilities for our careers. So that's what my crystal ball tells me. It's kind of like, there's the bad news. What's the good news? More change. What does that create?
Opportunity.
It creates opportunity. It creates more choice, or maybe it creates different choice for people. What's the good news about more problems?
More solutions.
More solutions. And let me suggest to you, building on that not only more solutions, but it also gives us the opportunity to really look at the problem and ask ourselves the question, you know what? What is it that we really want to create here? And that moves us into a whole different mode. Now, what's the good part about more onus on each one of us to take more responsibility for our careers?
Not relying on someone else.
Not relying on somebody else. So each one of us then has far more control over our career. So my crystal ball tells me that there's some things happening that can look scary, but I want you all to see that in each one of those, there's also some good news for us. All right, now, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I know that some of you know me already, but also there are people here who I've just met for the first time today. So my name is Donalda Cormier, and I've been working as a consultant. I'm an HR consultant, internal, external. Here's what that means. I have my own consulting company, but I've been working with the University of Saskatchewan for over 10 years in various ways. I have been working in this area of change management for 35 years. And when I first started, I was working with people who were disadvantaged. And one of the questions that always fascinated me about change was this: how can we make change in a way that's kind and friendly to people? And I think I've got some clues about that, and I certainly haven't answered all those questions to my own satisfaction. But one of the things that I do know is that the better that we understand the transition process, the easier it is for us to navigate change. Now, as my career progressed, I began to work in organizational change and have done most of that's what my career has been about since then. So this is an area of passion, an area of high interest for me as well. All right, so that's something about myself. Now, I would like us to start this today by doing a brief exercise. Here's what I'd like you to do. At your tables, I'd like you to pretend that you're just a fly on the wall, an observer. And here's the questions I'd like you to ask. When an organization is going through large-scale change, such as the university is, you're watching. What do you observe? What do you see people doing? What kind of conversations are they having with other people? What's the feeling tone or the mood in the organization? Okay? So I'd like you to just stand back and be that observer, and just take a few minutes, and at your table I'd like you to brainstorm a list of the things that you see, that you hear, that you observe, that you notice in terms of how people are feeling in the mood. Okay, way to go, 5 minutes.
Yeah. And I think even too with this.
All right. Let's pause and let's hear the kinds of things that you identified. So what I'd appreciate is if I could get one person, the person who was scribing, or not, to come to the mic and talk about what your group came up with. And what I'd appreciate, just give some of the top ones, and so we're not repeating the same things. Okay? So who'd like to start here? Kelly, would you?
Sure. Which microphone is it?
Doesn't matter. And I'm just going to make a few notes as you talk.
All right. So our group really tried to focus on things that we had actually seen, heard, or observed. And so some of the things that we identified were fear, fear for self as well as fear for others. So, you know, what's going to happen to my best friend that just lost their job, and oh my gosh, am I going to be next? We've observed or heard some comments about, well, I'm just going to ride it out. You know, there'll be a new president, there'll be a new leader, there'll be something new in just a few short years, and this will all pass. So I'm just going to put my head down and stay busy and ride it out, and really change isn't, you know, this isn't really going to happen. We talked about sadness. We've seen people in tears, a sense of loss for perhaps what you had, something you had, a relationship that you had in the workplace that is no longer there. So those were some of the main ones that we talked about.
Great. Thank you. You guys had identified one other that I when I joined you for a moment, that you had talked about in terms of after people have left.
Oh, in terms of the guilt that the people here feel. Yeah, we've observed that as well. So why me? Why did my friend
Yes.
lose their job and I'm still here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very common reaction, that people will feel guilty. Yeah. Okay. Danette, would you add some more?
Okay, so some of the things that we noticed a couple of those. We're noticing people in the organization trying to make their contributions more visible, so like showing their value or their worth. We're also seeing a lack of motivation in jobs, lost trust in the institution with some people. We talked about the media a little bit too, and how they don't always tell the whole story. So it seems to be always the bad, never the good, what the university is doing. So a lot of misconception with what's going on to the public, and possibly like our family members or friends that are seeing this happen.
So it's really media, the
Yeah.
media focusing on the bad news stories.
Yeah, instead of the good.
Yeah.
Of course, people are more sensitive, and there's a lot of rumors being created unintentionally or intentionally. That's all.
Okay, good. Anything else to add that was different?
Well, a few more. So we noticed that there's quite a bit of whispering, small groups of people, which kind of ties into a lot of the gossip. They don't have all the answers or information. Definitely a lot of anger, kind of bashing of the organization. Then a lot of people reevaluating their careers or jumping ship. Kind of the opposite, not waiting to ride it out.
So you said jumping ship, and what was the last one?
Reevaluating their careers,
Yeah.
jumping ship. And then our last one actually was more on a positive, that there's excitement, opportunity.
Oh.
A lot of people excited to change, new opportunities, new job duties,
Right. Okay.
new group of people to work with.
Great, thank you.
So we just had a couple different ones here. Worrying about the university's reputation as a whole, It creates the opportunity for self-reflection. It increases absenteeism and fatigue among some areas. If people are feeling stressed out about it, they kind of have absenteeism at work.
And so that's something that you've seen, is that increased absenteeism?
Somewhat, yet, in terms of disability and
Uh-huh.
then also the fact that it creates the opportunity for collaboration and teamwork. So I know with even in our area, a lot of areas have had to come together to work on the change. So
Mhm.
that's it.
Candace, I actually missed the second one
Sure,
that you said.
yeah.
What was it?
Worrying about the university's reputation.
Okay. And there was one other that you had talked about?
Self-reflection.
Yeah, so, and what did you say about that?
It just gives the opportunity for people to kind of think about, you get so into your day-to-day work all the time, but when big change comes about, it kind of makes you take a step back and reflect as to, whether this is what you want to do or whether you maybe would fit somewhere else if you're happy.
Yeah.
So it gives you the opportunity to take a step back and think about those things that you
Right.
might not if you were just doing your day-to-day routine every day. So
Yes. And that's a very positive,
absolutely,
very
yeah.
positive
Yeah.
kind of a response that people can take.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So that's what we're here to talk about today, is the things that you identified that are happening within the organization as it's going through a lot of change. Now, depending on where we are in the change process, we'll see things, we'll actually have some different things that we'll see happening. So right now, if I look at this particular list, I mean, this all has to do with endings. Those kind of reactions have to do with endings and loss. And then some of the ones that you identified, Candace, that your team talked about, are one of the ones that indicate where people are moving into the next phase of the transition process. So let me talk about what our agenda is today. So I want to talk about the characteristics of change, and we're going to talk about the dynamics of change, both personal as well as organizational. We'll talk about the phases of the transition process. So we want to look at endings. We're going to look at that space in between that I'm going to call the neutral zone, new beginnings, and then we're just going to, through this, we're going to take some time at the end for each one of you to do some personal planning based on what we've talked about today.